I'm often called both a Muslim terror apologist and an Islamophobe. How one can be both, I don't exactly know. The reality is that most terror in the world is committed by Muslims, but most terror in the US is committed by white non-Muslim men, mostly Christian, if not by personal religion, certainly by sort of casual upbringing by Christian parents and the celebration, at least casually, of Christian holidays. And if there were ever a counterpoint to the counterproductive and illegal majority Muslim country immigration ban of President Donald Trump, a mass shooting took place on Sunday night at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City in Canada, where 6 people were killed and 17 were injured when a lone gunman started shooting right after evening prayers had ended. And this is a terrorist attack. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has called it that. I've not really heard anyone deny that, where the victims were Muslims. And police say that of the 2 men that they had initially had contact with, one has been arrested. The other was determined to have been a witness rather than a suspect. The arrested man, the alleged perpetrator, identified as Alexandre Bissonnette, who is a 20-something-year-old regular white dude, not known to the representatives of the Muslim community at the mosque. He was previously not known to police, but he was known within the city in activist circles as a right-winger who frequently took anti-foreigner and anti-feminist positions, stood up for U.S. President Donald Trump. And it really makes you wonder not only what is the trigger that makes someone go from a sort of online antagonist and casual antagonist to somebody who actually seeks out weapons and end up shooting people. That's a question that's raised here. But of course, it really exposes, even within the context of the Muslim ban, and I get that this is Canada. Okay, I get that. But we've got very similar discussions going on in both countries about these issues. It really makes you say, well, even within the context of the ban, as we talked about yesterday, the primary sources of terrorists for acts committed in the United States, those countries are missing from the list. We talked about Saudi Arabia, we talked about Lebanon, et cetera. But above and beyond that, it remains that there are far more of these white American-born terrorists in the United States, and this one in Canada, than there are what this Muslim immigration ban purports to keep us safe from.
And I think it's very good that Prime Minister Trudeau is calling this out for what it is, because I think a lot of people in the American media aren't willing to do so. It doesn't matter if the act is perpetrated with guns or bombs, or if the person's white, black, whatever the color of their skin is, whatever their nationality. Terrorism is an act perpetrated on the means of religion or politics, and that's clearly what this was.
And it is meant also to be a sort of message to, this was not a message to the individuals that were killed. And there's no evidence whatsoever that individuals were targeted. This was an attack targeted at someone based on their membership in a particular group. In this case, people who are Muslim and go to a mosque. When it's white victims of hate crimes, I called it out a few weeks ago. And in this case, I also am calling it what it is. Now, I went online to different right-wing and pro-Trump enclaves of the internet just to see what was their take on all of this. And I saw that there were comments and discussion threads where the Trumpists and the alt-righters were condemning the attack. They were even talking about, well, maybe we could set up a GoFundMe account for the victims to make sure that this guy isn't associated with our cause. And it sort of made me feel like maybe there was some hope there, even if it was mostly opportunistic and trying to avoid being wrapped in with this guy, which, again, this seems to be a pro-Trump, alt-right, anti-feminist type. That's abundantly clear that that's what he is. Until I started reading some of the more detailed comments where, of course, it was being called a false flag operation to deliberately undermine the Trump Muslim ban. You would think, Pat, that if there was a false flag event like this, that they would do it in the United States, not in Canada? Or is that just the deliberate subtlety of the whole thing?
It's part of the false flag operation, yes, that it occurred in a different country. I mean, a subreddit isn't necessarily the best cross-section of Trump supporters, and it's good that some of those people in that community are condemning this attack, but there's always going to be those conspiracy theorists out there.
The other interesting thing that was going on discussion forums online, on right-wing websites, Reddit, et cetera, was saying, hey, we shouldn't we shouldn't judge all Trump supporters, all alt-righters, all anti-feminists based on the actions of one single extremist terrorist. Where have I heard that before and it was completely ignored by people? Oh, right, in this entire majority Muslim country immigration ban that we've been talking about for the last 48 hours. It was truly stunning. I mean, the hypocrisy, the total cognitive dissonance here, and no indication again from the police that anybody else was involved. Some on the right say, I won't talk about attacks when Muslims are the perpetrators. The truth is the opposite. I talk about it all the time. But then some on the left say, I won't talk about stories where Muslims are the victims because, again, I'm an Islamophobe. But again, here I am talking about it. What is abundantly clear here is that this immigration ban of the U.S. That we've been talking about, it's optics and PR. It is not a serious way to keep Americans safer. It is abundantly clear that that's the case, as we have seen the ban start to be talked about positively in the sense of it being a great recruiting tool for many extremist and jihadist and Islamic State associated groups. There is no evidence that it is actually going to make Americans safer. And if that's actually what you care about, then you should be judging it based on that, not on the optics or this arbitrary, it was a promise that Trump is keeping type of thing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today.